I think most people will agree that the social climate in America and in some other parts of the world is beginning to shift as people become more aware of issues and have more immediate access to information. The issue around the value of Black life is one of the more common themes, but this dialogue has inevitably expanded into other historical genres, if you will, like the legacy of colonialism on the African continent. In recent years, the issue of repatriation concerning African artworks has been brought to the forefront, and now some museums, mostly in Europe, are feeling the pressure. So today, I wanted to talk about the history behind some of these looted African artifacts. What up, African world? It's Home Team here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. My website, Afrographics, is available for resources on African history if you need it. And also, if you like this channel, you can support this content on patreon.com. And with a word from my sponsors, there's a new social media platform dedicated to educating and uplifting our people. No longer do we have to be censored for speaking our truth. Our Black Truth is Black owned and operated, and a place where you can post your businesses and even monetize your content. You can download the app at Google Play or the App Store, and you can visit the website at ourbblacktruth.com. All links to everything in the description box below. To begin, this video really isn't designed or intended to point fingers or gaslight any issue. As I was studying African art, I really just bumped into this topic. I had no clue about the full scope of the issue and just how many African artifacts were actually stolen from the continent. Now, of course, I knew it existed, but the looting of artifacts was on a scale I honestly did not expect. So I simply wanted to shed light on this history. Also, for the sake of brevity, I'll only be focusing on a few African artifacts, so be sure to add some that you may know about in the comment section below. The issue of repatriation can be a complex one, even though morally it's an obvious action to take. The idea that European nations need to return African artifacts that were literally taken over the lifeless bodies of Africans is just ethically unassailable. However, at the end of the day, power only respects power, and African nations seeking these items might find it an uphill battle if they don't acquire some form of it. To give you an idea concerning the full scope of Europe's looting on the African continent, according to Nazmat Badamosi from foreignpolicy.com, the British Museum in London holds at least 73,000 objects from sub-Saharan Africa. France holds 90,000 artifacts, most of which were stolen during its colonial rule over much of the region. Belgium's controversial Royal Museum for Central Africa holds more than 120,000 artifacts, mostly taken from the Belgian Congo during King Leopold II's regime, which was characterized by slavery, rape, and mutilation, and resulted in the killing of at least 10 million Congolese. Germany's Humboldt Forum holds around 75,000 artifacts, including 10,000 objects looted by German troops during the Maji Maji uprising against colonial rule in present-day Tanzania. Around 300,000 locals were killed. These statistics are certainly polarizing. From an African perspective, it's difficult to imagine any middle ground when it comes to the issue of repatriation. Hundreds of thousands of African lives were lost so that African heritage can be displayed in European museums. These are quite literally blood artifacts. Some of the most popular African artifacts were taken from the Benin Empire. Benin was located on the western part of the Niger Delta and was founded by the Bini people, also known as the Edo people. The ruler of Benin was known as the Oba, and these rulers had been receiving Europeans since the 15th century. Benin had been interacting with Europeans peacefully until the British saw the opportunity to advance their colonial ambition. The British sent a punitive expedition to oust the African ruler from his throne, and so the British invaded Benin, burned the city, and looted royal artifacts. These artifacts came to be known as the Benin Bronzes. Bronzes, some of the most exquisite and priceless pieces of art of royal Africa, were either sent to the British Museum or auctioned. Museums in Berlin and Vienna acquired a great number of treasures. The punitive expedition against the Benin Empire was a typical example of British expansionist policy at the time, and this policy expressed itself against the Ashanti people as well. Another blood artifact, if you will, comes from Ethiopia, known as the Magdala treasures. The Magdala treasures include an 18th century gold crown and a royal wedding dress taken from Ethiopia by the British Army in 1868. The Magdala treasures come from an era of perhaps one of the greatest rulers of Ethiopia, Emperor Tewodros II. His rise to power and his years of rule was considered by many to be impressive. In 1852, he defeated all major lords of Ethiopia and was crowned by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The emperor continued to hope for productive, progressive relations with Europe, particularly Britain, but when the British neglected to respond to a formal overture of his in 1862, he began to make hostages of the British protected foreigners in Ethiopia. The result was the British expedition that created the circumstances of his death in April 1868. The emperor, rather than be captured by the British, decided to end his own life at the Battle of Magdala. Some historians claim that 15 elephants and 200 mules were needed to carry all the loot from Magdala. Some of the most popular items taken was a crown, a royal dress, and a gold chalice. It's very tempting to dismiss this event as Ethiopia's self-inflicted wound, if you will, but the looting was certainly unnecessary, and merely an indication of what Europeans sought after all along: wealth and exploitation. The Victoria and Albert Museum apparently offered to return on loan Ethiopia's artifacts, but I'm not exactly sure what the terms were concerning that offer. Even though the overwhelming majority of African artifacts are still in European possession, some items have been returned, such as the saber of Omar Tall of the Tukulir Empire. But there's still a massive power imbalance that does not seem to be going away anytime soon. One African elite like Yemisi Shylon, a Yoruba prince, seems to be a little more realistic in his demand, as he feels, at least for now, that the British Museum should pay royalties for the artifacts instead of outright repatriation. I would be lying if I said I didn't have some cognitive dissonance. If it weren't for these tragic events, would I have seen these magnificent royal artifacts? I really can't say. But the joy I get from laying eyes on these objects are of such little importance compared to the dignity of the owners. The acquisition of these items were vicious and inhumane, largely stemming from the ambition of peoples who had little respect for the humanity of Africans in general. And I think that truth must be the foundation of any branch that may sprout from further dialogue. Well, I'm all out, guys. I didn't even scratch the surface with this topic, but I'm hoping that I painted a more accurate picture of the looting Africa received around the time of colonialism. It will help this video a lot if you share in the comments below other African artifacts taken from the continent. If you like these videos and want to help in its continued production, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.